When something seems too good to be true, but you're desperate, what mistake are you making that will cost you, but you just can't help yourself? Could Terry and Meech already be in bed with the enemy, but not know it as yet? I think a certain character that the writers want us to keep an eye on this season just might be. What's going on, everyone? Just Be here, and I'm breaking down the latest episode of BMF Season 3, Episode 2, titled Magic Makers. We're diving into the biggest and most meatiest parts of this episode right now. Let's go. So this episode has a lot of new characters introduced, and I mean a ton of them, right? It's hard to keep track of, but we're going to do our best. We start off with Terry and Markeisha, who are supposed to be enjoying their new life in the house that he literally just bought for them. But when he comes home after moving in all of his stuff, he sees Markeisha's crying in the bedroom because she can't have her kids with her at the house because Boom, who was her husband and also the father of the kids, was the one who was responsible for getting her shot in the first place. So even though she doesn't want to break up with Terry, she decides that it's best in the moment for them to try to stay together, but just not live together. And you know, Terry, of course, he doesn't take it well because as far as he's concerned, he's made a lot of sacrifices for them already. And he tells her to do what she wants and basically leaves. And later on in the episode, we see him try to get back with LaWanda, who initially starts to play hard to get at first. And eventually, as she starts to warm up back to him and finally gave it to him for leaving her in the first place for Markeisha, we see them kicking it at their restaurant that Terry just recently bought to help clean some of the money through with the rest of the BMF crew. They're all happy and they're all kissing again. And it just goes to show that Terry is very confused and seems to have an issue with committing to just one woman. He just moves on from the next and flip-flops whenever he feels hurt or disappointed, or he sees something else new that just catches his eye. So that's obviously one of his vices. But let me know in the comments if you guys think that he and Markeisha are going to get back together, or maybe they're going to start an affair on the side again and he's going to feel extra guilty about cheating on LaWanda with Markeisha again. So let me know what you guys think about that theory in the comments. Now, last season, we were introduced to Cena Hidalgo, who was Terry and Meech's plug from Colombia, who they managed to get the product from. He was seen on the news after getting arrested and extradited back to the US. So automatically, this lets Terry and Meech know that they need to now find a new plug who conveniently happens to show up in the form of a guy named Loco, strangely enough. Now, Loco shows up at the Flannery's house on their doorsteps, threatening cheating Charles at first. And the reason they were doing that is because they were looking for Meech, initially who they referred to as Demetrius, which is his first name, because they wanted to work with him specifically, knowing that Ty Washington specifically mentioned working with Meech. But what's interesting in this scene between Terry and Meech is the fact that they started using code for like travel agents and flying and vacations when referring to all that they're doing in the game when they're on the phone. And that just kind of goes to show as if they kind of suspect someone might be listening in on the other end of the line. And I know with them having had run-ins in the past and knowing that the law enforcement's always kind of going to be after them, it was interesting to hear them using this new kind of lingo to communicate with each other. So that might be a little interesting Easter egg that we may see moving forward. Who knows? So Terry meets with Henry, who is the daughter of Blaze. Blaze is an OG player in the game in Detroit that Detective Bryant also knows, and he goes to Blaze in this episode for some money to help him pay for his son's legal fees. But Terry goes to Henry to get some supply, and she tries to offer him it at a lower cost. And initially he's unsure of the quality, and it's kind of weird because she's trying to throw in other things inside there as an incentive, and that kind of sends up some red flags for him because she's coming off kind of sketchy. But he needs to make sure that he can secure and provide product where he can before it dries up from what they have left over from the supply from Cena. Now, back in Atlanta, Meech is trying to make the same moves and also trying to secure a plug as well. And we see him and his crew moving through Greenie's club and trying to have conversations and strategize on what they're going to do. Now, side note, this episode, in my opinion, was very, very gratuitous with a lot of the scenes. You know what I mean, guys? A lot of the scenes in this episode, I felt as if it was too much. and it felt forced and unnecessary and distasteful for the episode. And as far as I'm concerned, it didn't need to be there, right? But anyway, ultimately, he ends up connecting with Angel, who is Greeny's girlfriend and also works at the club as well. And he wants to use Angel to get Glock's connect to secure a new plug, because Angel works in the club again, and she can get him access to Glock's right-hand man and other people who are around him. So, you know, Meech, he puts his little mac on, his little cheesy smile on, and his charm in typical Meech fashion, and they hit it off. I mean, and she ends up name dropping the name of Glock's plug, who is Santiago Dominguez, who is actually Loco. So Santiago Dominguez was just a fake made-up name in order for Loco to try to fish Meech out to come and find him. So when Meech and Duffy go to meet quote-unquote Santiago at this particular time, they end up finding a lot of bodies around the place, and you can see that the MKs had also come through, and now there's a whole shootout going on between the MKs and Loco's crew, who Loco's crew ends up winning. It's at this time that they decide to work together, as Loco lets him know that he was trying to get in touch with him to supply him because he worked with Ty before. Meech ends up calling and telling Terry about it, who, of course, he's initially skeptical because of the way in which it happened, but we know Meech is the one who's really and truly calling the shots here, and he follows Meech's lead, which we see he's starting to have a problem with due to not feeling respected for holding down BMF in Detroit. Hold on real quickly. You guys want to see something crazy? Over 99% of you guys that watch my content are not subscribed. So I'm asking real quickly, if you don't mind, just hit the like button and hit subscribe real quickly. I'd love to keep on giving this content to you guys, and lets me know that people actually are interested. Feel free to do that, man. Really appreciate it a lot. Would help me out a long way in growing my small channel. Thanks. Now back to the video. And one of the interesting things about how this episode ended off was with a narration by future Meech pointing out the obvious, which is the fact that Loco came to him almost desperate to be their plug, which is weird because it's typically the other way around, you know, when that's happening. But I think this is a character that, of course, we need to keep our eyes on, because the way that he was moving in terms of between Detroit and also in Atlanta and really trying to get at Meech and trying to work with them seems really, really desperate. So I think this might be an enemy in the camp that we have happening here, but because these guys here are desperate for a new plug, they are making probably a mistake that is going to come back to bite them in the butt. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this particular situation and how you think it might actually go ahead and play out. That's all I got for this episode breakdown of BMF. I enjoyed it. Was a different pace than the first episode, except for the part like I talked about where they were a little too gratuitous with some scenes. But nonetheless, let's see what the next episode has for us in terms of them working with Loco now. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this episode and where you think this particular storyline might be headed this season for the Flannery brothers. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe as well. Until next time, peace.